Hello and welcome to another review of Drones Visual. Today I'll be finally releasing my first flying video of the DJI Spark. When it comes to this drone, there's so much ground to cover that you need to break it down in a few videos. Although I have tested the Spark these few days, many things remain to be tested yet, but I'll get started now sharing my first impressions and what problems you may encounter when flying this little fellow. In the first part of the video, I'll share with you several situations I encountered in my first initial flights. I'll give you my thoughts on the drone's flying, then I'll talk about the gesture control and what you can expect when flying in this mode, and finally, I'll share with you footage recorded with the DJI Spark in different conditions. So let's just dive into it. I remember the first few times that I tested the Spark, I encountered some difficulties, either environmental or technical. I performed the initial takeoff, or the first takeoff manually, and elevated the drone to around 1.5 meters. During that first minute of flying minute, the drone sort of jerked a bit up and down, like it was having some sort of epileptic seizure. This only actually lasted for a minute or so and it faded away. I don't have any footage of it doing it, but it was like I'm describing. I can't really tell at this point whether electromagnetic interference caused this, or the fact that the drone was perhaps in relative proximity to the ground. I only experienced this a couple of times, so I can't tell much about what was causing this. The same moment, actually, after having kept the drone in the air for some minutes, it started to rain heavily, and it has been raining here for weeks, let me tell you that. The drone got slightly wet, but nothing really serious. Something that I actually love about the Spark is that despite the fact that I have turned off the drone several times while it was still recording, I have not lost any footage. As you know, with many other drones, if you turn them off without previously stopping the recording process, you run the risk of losing the footage in the buffer, but so far I have not experienced this with the DJI Spark. During my second flight, I experienced one of the scariest situations. I was flying in GPS mode and I took off using the auto takeoff button and elevated the drone to around 25 meters for a while to see how it was behaving. I checked video transmission, I checked the controls using the transmitter, I got a feel for it. Finally, I tested the auto return home function to confirm it was working properly. I had no issues whatsoever, so I felt it was okay to move to the second stage by increasing the altitude to 80 meters, but keeping the drone kind of close. It was really windy that day, but the aircraft can actually really handle the wind nicely, and it does not reflect much in the video. I'll show you that later. After spending 3 minutes recording at 80 meters, I got a scary error message in my smartphone from the DJI Go 4 app telling me that the connection was lost due to some hardware error. Initially, as I saw no more details of the message, I thought, damn, it lost connection with the transmitter, so it might trigger the auto return home mode. But the drone seemed to remain in place hovering. I thought that the hardware failure had perhaps to do with the GPS antenna or something like that, so the drone would not be able to return home. But after I calmed down a bit, I noticed that I had lost also video signal. So I went ahead and clicked the error message to see more details, and it was telling me that it was some sort of critical error with the camera sensor and I had to take the drone to the manufacturer. I was saying to myself, no fucking way. I went ahead and pressed the auto return home button in the transmitter, and the drone right away came back and descended to where I was. I restarted the aircraft and the message never showed up again, so really can't tell much about what happened, but I took a screenshot of that message, which is important to have. One thing that I want to point out regarding the auto return home mode, when the drone is descending, it will stop very close to the ground, and the app will ask you whether it's okay to land in that spot. After you confirm, the drone then will proceed and land. If the battery level is critical, however, the drone may land without you getting any message from the app. While in the return home mode, you can of course at all times control the aircraft with the transmitter to adjust the landing location if the conditions on the ground have changed, like if there is a person on the spot or something like that, a tree, or if the drone is deviating from the location, you can then adjust using the transmitter. When flying in GPS mode, the Spark keeps its position like a rock. Over here, I tend to get at least 15 satellites, so the drone knows very well its position and can correct it even if minor deviations take place. Even in very windy conditions, the drone will remain in place, although the wind does not rocket, does rocket kind of a little bit back and forth, but you won't notice that in the footage, and it will still remain in place using the connectivity or the connection from the satellites. During a low altitude test in windy conditions, I was surprised that I could not really notice in the footage the fact that the drone was oscillating. I must say that the gimbal is doing a great job. In my first video, someone was telling me that besides the 2-axis gimbal, DJI is employing some great image stabilization in the Spark by having it record at 4K or 4K footage that gets then cropped and outputted to Full HD with astonishing quality and stability. Anyways, at the end of the video, I'll show you more video samples in different conditions so you can judge better the performance of the camera, although there are plenty of videos out there showing that already. After not having experienced any more critical errors for a while, I decided to do an altitude test with the Spark. I slowly started to gain altitude until I reached about 120 meters. Then I got a warning from the app telling me that I had reached the altitude limit, which was set to 120 meters. The app will tell you that you can remove this limit in the adjustment menu, but I decided to test it further at this altitude. The day was really hot, and at some point I noticed that my smartphone was boiling. It was really hot. And I got a temperature warning also. At the same time, I noticed that the app has sort of crashed. What I mean is that there was a lot, and I mean a lot of lag. So pressing, for example, the options menu or the shutter button or any button would not really work. I initially thought that the issue was caused by the overheating, but since then I have experienced it in several occasions at lower temperature. This is one of the most bothersome issues that I want to get to the bottom of during further testing. I thought the reason could be related to the video buffering or something like that, and I have enabled to auto clear the buffer and a few other settings in the app, but so far this has not completely cleared the issue. It could also be a matter of smartphone compatibility, although I don't think so, as the issue does not really arise always. So as I was saying, I still need to dig deeper into what may be causing this. When you're using the transmitter, even if the app crashes, you will still have complete control of the drone. That is why, in my opinion, it's a must to get the drone with the transmitter. As you know, the Spark is equipped with sensors in the front and under the aircraft. When flying in GPS mode, if someone approaches the aircraft from the front, the app will start beeping and show you a proximity warning. If an object approaches the aircraft from below, like for example my hand, the aircraft will gain altitude to avoid a collision, but the app will not beep or give you a proximity warning. The next thing I wanted to try was the gesture mode that actually me and some of my friends were really eager to put to the test, but because of the rain we didn't get that chance before. Trying the gesture mode was really fun, and I believe we recorded a lot of footage in which I make a fool out of myself trying to tell the Spark what to do. Remember that to use gesture mode, you need to enable it during the initial setup, or you need to navigate to the advanced options in the DJI Go 4 app and enable it there. There are a few options you can select, and I advise you not to initially select the option that allows the Spark to fly backwards in follow me or active tracking mode, because as you know, the drone does not have sensors in the rear, so you are at risk of a collision. Of course, if there is enough space like here, I guess it should be fine, but try to get used to how the drone behaves before doing it. All the time I used the gesture mode, I had the transmitter or remote control of the drone turned on for security reasons. DJI also recommends the usage of prop guards when flying in gesture mode, and I advise you the same. I just forgot to put them on for this video, but if I were you, I would use them. To ensure enable gesture mode, power the drone, then wait for it to acquire satellite connectivity for better positioning. Then you can pick up the drone from the ground, place it on the palm of your hand, and while holding it, holding the rear section of the drone with your fingers, make sure that the camera of course is at eye level. Place then your index finger on the battery button on the rear section of the drone and double press it. You will notice that the front light of the drone will flash a few times, then the drone will make a sound, and the motors will move a few times, and right after that the motors will spin. Once then the motors start spinning and the drone gathers some speed, you basically can release the drone and it will hover in front of you. This is simple, but sometimes things don't go exactly as you want. Sometimes your timing might be a little bit off and you release it before time, then it will go down and hover close to the ground. You can still gain control there, but you will look kind of silly trying to get it up once more. Another thing that could happen is that during takeoff, the drone swings really close to you and you might need to take a step backwards before starting gesture control. Otherwise the drone might be too close and it won't recognize your hand. To let the drone know you want to control it, place the palm of your hand in front of the drone for some seconds. Then the lights will start flashing yellow. After a while they will go green and you'll be able to control the drone. If the LEDs continue flashing yellow without going solid green, this means the drone has not recognized the command. This could happen because you're too close or too far, or just because the Spark is not in a good mood. You can adjust the distance and try again until they go green. Once they're solid green, you can then proceed to control the drone by moving your hand to the right, to the left, up and down, just whatever you want. And the drone of course will move in the same direction. I have to say a few things about this. First, there can be a little bit of lag at times between the hand movement and the drone responding. So don't go ninja on the Spark, otherwise it will basically lose you. There will be times where the drone will lose track of your hand because of the wind or a fast hand movement, and you will see that the front LED lights will start flashing yellow. In cases like that, you don't really have to worry. Just place your hand in front of the drone once more and you'll be able to regain control. While you're controlling the Spark with your hands, if you lower the controlling hand, the drone will sort of lower its altitude as well. Sometimes this can be annoying. If you want, for example, the drone to remain at eye level, and you lower your hand, well, the drone will also descend. What you can do to avoid this is to quickly withdraw your hand and the drone will remain at the same altitude. When you want the drone to land, just place the palm of your hand on the drone, then the sensor will detect your hand and the drone will proceed to land on your hand, and then turn off the motors as soon as the landing has been completed. That is really easy and I did not experience any issues with that whatsoever. If you want the Spark to enter in the so-called follow me or auto tracking mode, wave your hand for a few seconds and the Spark will fly like I think 2.5 meters back and around 3 meters up, something like that. After the drone has reached its altitude, or that altitude, the so-called active tracking will be active and you will move the drone. If you move, the drone will of course follow you wherever you go, as you have seen probably in other videos. I really love this mode and it's amazing to see the drone chasing you even though you're basically not holding a transmitter or anything, not even your smartphone or any other device. Really great job by DJI. I need to say a few things about this mode though. The first thing is that at times when you wave your hand, the drone does not recognize your command. So it will flash the front lights telling you, what the heck are you telling me? In that case, you can either continue waving your hand for a while until the Spark sort of recognizes what you're trying to convey, or of course, once the Spark recognizes that you're trying to tell it to enter this active tracking, it will fly back. Otherwise, you can just basically adjust the distance from the drone and wave your hand at a different pace, maybe slower, so the Spark will recognize the gesture. But with time you get used to it. I mean, I'm still getting used to it, but I'm getting better and better. So it's kind of like a couple, at the beginning maybe there's some misunderstanding, but over time you get to know each other. Another thing you might experience is that at times the drone might lose you if you move too sharply or get next to an object or building. When that happens, the drone cleverly waits hovering until it can pick up your scent once more. I love the fact that the Spark does not really panic. It is very nicely programmed to respond to all those instances in a very clever way. Another instance in which the drone might lose you is when you walk right under the aircraft. You can see that the camera is following you, but the drone might just stay in place. I think if you enable in the app the option to fly backwards in active tracking or follow me mode, then the drone might be able to do something in instances like this. I still need to try that though. In the follow me or active tracking mode, the drone will also engage in obstacle avoidance, and I would like to dedicate another video to that, not to make this one too extensive. Another cool thing that you can do is take photos by giving a hand command. This is a really nice function when you put your hands like this basically. Yeah, you will see the Spark, the Spark will detect that gesture, then the front LEDs will start flashing red. Just make sure that you lower your hands before the photo is taken, otherwise, well, your photo will look like this one, kind of silly, right? While you're flying in active tracking or follow me mode and you would like the drone to return to your location, you have to wave your hands like this and the drone will detect this command. It will start descending and approaching you. Of course, this at times may fail as well, so you might need to repeat the same command a few times before the drone takes action. So one of the flying modes that really surprised me was the so-called sports, like the sort of sporty flying mode. Now, before you enable this mode, just make sure that you have some experience flying, as otherwise, well, you may crash by accident. This mode is really awesome, and the Spark can really turn into a little Ferrari. This little quad is more agile and faster than I expected. It has a nice acceleration, and it can certainly gain a lot of momentum, making it really fun to fly. Something I noticed is that even while flying on the very high temperatures, the Spark does not get too hot when flying this fast. This might be because enough air enters the system and cools it down. I think if you just, for example, hover under this intense sunlight, it might get way hotter than flying at this speed. Although the motors get actually hot, but not the drone itself. But I can say that I really love the sports mode, although I'm not sure how much I will use it, because I see more the Spark as a drone video, as a sort of video drone, rather than some kind of a speed quad or something like that, but I think it's nice to get the choice. Okay, let's take a look at different fragments or footage recorded with the DJI Spark, and let's analyze the quality. Let me first state that I have so far tried the camera using the auto mode, meaning that I have not played with the settings whatsoever. I will do that in future videos. The first footage has been recorded in a very sunny day at low altitude, and I was surprised at how stable the footage was. Because it was a very windy day and the Spark was sort of kind of like shaking a lot. You can see the trees or the bushes behind being rocked by the wind, yet very little motion is seen in the video itself. It almost seems at times that the camera was actually on a tripod or some kind of support. Really nice. This second footage was recorded during a very cloudy day, close to sunset time, and I love the level of detail that I can see in the footage and the shadows and the colors. I would dare to say that this may look better than the footage that my GoPro 4 Black records, but I still want to compare them next to each other to be sure. As the drone gains altitude and it starts to get windy, we see at times a little bit of vibrations in the video. There are two kinds of vibrations, usually the ones induced by the wind, which are not always apparent, and the ones induced by the operator, in this case by me, which are basically sudden stick movements. This other footage was recorded in very low light conditions, and as I was mentioning before, using the automatic settings. The footage recorded, like I say, it was in very low light and it was very windy, and you can see that there's a lot of noise as the camera seems to be cranking up the ISO to compensate for the absence of light. This of course creates a lot of visible noise in the footage, and you can see it here. I was not happy with this quality, but I have seen way better footage recorded with the Spark in low light conditions, so I want to try it next by tweaking a little bit the camera settings, see whether I can improve the quality in low light. Another great thing you can do with the Spark is record sports events. I had a lot of fun recording a football match, and I managed to capture very interesting perspective from above, of course. In fact, the footage could be even used later by the team to improve the game, as things look way better from above. It although will take you some time to get used to operating the camera and the drone efficiently to avoid sudden changes in angles that look bad in the video, especially when controlling the pitch of the camera. I often made very sharp changes that is probably why, you know, in the Inspire 1 and 2 they offer two transmitters, so you have a camera operator and then a drone operator. In that way, you know, someone can focus in the camera control while another person can focus on the flying, although I mean that still requires a lot of coordination, of course. So okay, I will conclude the third part of my video series about the DJI Spark now. There is certainly a lot more to be covered, but we will need to do that in next videos. I hope I was able to help some of you by sharing my experience and provided some useful tips. If you found this video useful, please give me a thumbs up and drop me some comments. If you feel that I say something that was wrong, do not hesitate and correct me in the comment section. In that way, we will all benefit. Those of you interested in the topic of drones and would like to get the latest news and reviews directly from China, do not hesitate and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you all in my next video.